Hi patrons, it's Karen, and today I'm going to do the rock tutorial. I have some gray markers. These are neutral grays. I have N0, N1, N2, I don't know if you guys can see those, N4, N5, N6, and oops, and 8. And so I'm not going to use all of these, but this is kind of like the extent of my range of grays that I have here that I'm going to use while I'm working on these rocks that I'm going to show you. Because drawing rocks is basically about knowing your lights, midtones, and darks. And so we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to start with my light ones, and I'm going to do round and chisel-y shaped rocks for you guys so you can kind of see how I do different kinds of rocks. For like a jaggedy rock, I use the chisel nib, and I'm starting with N0 because this is going to be my lightest color. And I'm just going to start, and if you guys have seen Bob Ross, I'm going to do like what he does when he makes a mountain. Basically just make a bunch of jaggedy, pointy shapes and stuff. And so there's that one. I'm going to make the base kind of flat, make it look like it's kind of like sticking up out of some dirt or grass or something. And for a round rock, I'm going to use the brush nib. Here, let's clean up my paper. I'm using some scrap paper today because paper is a rare commodity right now. I'm running out of paper, so I'm using a scrap. And this is just cardstock. This is a really basic, cheap sort of cardstock. I think I talked about it in my papers recommendations list. This is just regular Staples cardstock. And again, just use the nib to create the silhouette of the stone and then color it in. Another thing that you'll notice, like with rocks, they usually bunch together. So I'm going to make another rock here. Yeah, there's one. And this is going to show you how to do overlapping rocks. So I'm going to talk about that as well. And I'm going to do that with the jagged one too. So we're going to do that. And I just place it slightly lower on the page than the first one. And don't worry too much if the coloring is all wonky, patchy and stuff. That's fine. Rocks are meant to be kind of irregular anyway. So to keep this simple, I'm going to go light and then a mid-tone, and I'm going to do probably, let's see, here's N0. I think I'm going to go with, let's try N4 or N2. Let's see. Yes, I'm going to go with N2, probably N4, and if we need some really dark areas, N6 will do really nicely. So 4 values is really all you need. You could keep it at 3 if you wanted to, or even just 2. In my dinosaur drawing, I did like a mid-tone color and a dark color for my rocks, and that was sufficient enough for what I needed. So we're going to let these dry, because jagged rocks look better when the ink has dried, and we're going to come in here because these guys are still wet. And I'm going to come back with N0 just to sketch in where my shading area will be. And I'm going to go around the outer edge of the other rock that's behind or in front of this one. Don't want to mess up that edge. It'll make a really confusing looking rock. And then just blend across that edge of wet marker to kind of smooth that out. Then I'm going to come in and make it darker, probably from here on to the edge of this marker using N2. Going really slow and smooth. Think about where your light is coming from. My light's coming from up here. And so the shadows are going to come around this curved rock on this side. And a great idea is to get some rocks and just put them on your desk and sketch them. They don't have to look exactly like the real rock, but it'll help you figure out how they look under lighting, especially if you isolate your light source to one central light or whatever, one specific light source. That's a great way to do that. We're just going to do one rock at a time, because if I did this one while this one was still wet, it might interfere. I don't know. I'm just trying to avoid any interference. So that was N2, and I've already done N0. Now we're going to come in with N4, and we're going to give this a little more darkness right here. And we could even stop here if we wanted to. It just depends how strong you want your light source to look, or how dark you want your rocks to look. This is actually quite a light colored rock that we're putting in here. And there will be a bit of a reflected light down here. So we don't want it to be completely dark. We want the darkest part of the form shadow to be right through here. Okay, so we're going to blend this area here with N2. Sometimes it's hard to keep the edges smooth on your round rocks, especially if they're overlapping. What you can do is allow the round rocks to dry and then wet one rock at a time. And what I'm doing now is just blending over every area that's dark, going across it with N2, and that will help the ink spread both ways. So there's a round rock. Looks pretty okay to me. I'm going to start on this one now. This one has dried a bit since we haven't been working on it at all. So I'm going to avoid this edge here, and I'm going to come across here because it is still wet right here, and I want to make sure not to mix color. So I'm going to come across, but I'm not going to touch that ink with this marker. Then, just like the last time, we're going to put in a bit of a midtone. Yes, this is N2. I thought I had N4 for a second there. Looked kind of dark. And a sharp edge, kind of like right here, makes it look like the rock has a bit of a jagged spot, which I think looks kind of interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and keep a bit of a jagged spot there. It kind of gives the rock some interest. And I'm going to blend that again with N0. Then I'm going to come back with N4 before it dries out. I'm going to make that jagged spot a little more defined, and then I'm going to come along with the smooth area. Blend it out. Blend it this way. And then I'm going to come along with N2, just like with the first rock. And sometimes if you feel like your edges are not sharp enough, you can use the chisel nib. So right here I feel like that's really fuzzy, so I'm going to come back and try to sharpen that edge. I may have to use N4 to do so. Yeah, I'm going to come back with N4, the chisel nib. I want that rock to stick out from the other one. So there we go. That's better. And right here I need to blend still, so I'm going to come back with N2 and blend that. Going across it. Following the form of the rock helps to helps curve it and make it look roundy. Now let's say there's a little irregularity here, right here. Right there, the rock. You can do that. Do that if you want. Make your rock look kind of bumpy. And we kind of want to blend that out a little bit. This is a great way to do potatoes as well. Not many people draw potatoes, but if you wanted to, you could do it like a round rock. And there's a round rock. Now we're going to move over here and work on our jagged rocks. So I feel like I'm going to come in with N2. I don't do a lot of blending on jagged rocks, partially because, well, they're sharper, they have more sharp angles, they're not smooth like a rounded rock would be, and so you're going to want to keep these areas of light and mid-tone and dark pretty well defined. So we're going to have the light coming from this way again. So the light would be hitting right on like this flat area here. We'll make a flat area right there. There we go. Just like that. And right here we're going to come back in. Just like that. And let's say we want it to have like a irregular shape there, we can do that. Something like that. I really recommend, if you don't know how to draw rocks, watch some Bob Ross painting. The Joy of Painting is his series, and he does mountains, and he shows you how to do light and dark on mountains, and this is how I learned to do rocks, is to imitate his mountain technique. Let's say you want to have a little bit of detail here with this. Another little like layery rock. This is a kind of rock that probably formed in layers. There we go. And down here, as we get more over to this side, there's going to be more dark areas. And we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be exact. Rocks are an organic form. But you do have to think about, let's say you had a cube. It would be light on one side, mid-tone on the other, and then dark on the other. So let's draw a little cube so I can show you what I'm talking about. Probably should have done this in the beginning. So as I was saying, we have the lightest part of the cube, this mid-tone colored cube area, and then the darkest area. And so we're kind of trying to emulate that on the rock. So for this rock, because of the way that the light is angled, we're only going to see really small dark areas. And sometimes it's even better to use this little kind of tiny little corner of your chisel nib, and that'll give you a really fine line. Yeah, it'll give you a really fine line. My son's awake now and having lunch, but he's going to try and interject here every once in a while. It's just part of life. He's talkative. Are you talking? Yeah. So anyway, so just detail it like this, and don't put too many over here. Maybe one or two small ones. But that's about it. And we've got this side over here, this little rock here, and it's kind of hard to differentiate these two right now. What I'm going to do is very gently, very lightly come in around it with a lighter color. I am layering N0 on top of where N0 has already been drawn, and that will kind of show it in alright without much of a sharp difference between this part and up here. We would probably get a little bit of a cast shadow here, but for now I'm just going to gradient that spot there. And then I'm going to come in with W2, just like with this one, and put in our dark areas right there. Let's make it a little irregular. Put some dark areas in here. Ron, what are you talking about? Put some dark areas in here as well. And more as we get further away from the light source. More of these little dark spots. I'm coloring upside down. That's probably pretty hard for you guys to see upside down. Let's turn it over. And yeah, that's about how I want it to look. Put a little more dark areas in. Give it a really layered look. It makes it look really interesting. Put a little more in right there. Most of our dark spot's going to be right here on this side, down here in the bottom. And again, if you have a different light source, this will be a little bit different. But most people use a light source coming from the top from a 45-degree angle, either from the left or the right. And if you were going to do a light source coming from this way, you would just switch which side was dark and which side was light. Alright guys, I hope this was an easy tutorial for you guys. I hope it was easy to follow. Give me pointers and tips on what I can do differently next time if it was a little bit confusing. Please let me know in the future what other tutorials you'd like to see in the next tutorial poll. Thank you for being my Patreon patron. I am so thankful that you are doing this for me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that the tutorial was worth it. And I will see you guys in the next tutorial.